All right, guys, coming at you again today. Today we're going to talk about food composition. Okay, this is the what. What do we eat? What are the sources? So, number 4 on our list of principles. I know, that could be considered like, hey, why isn't that higher? Right? We got to get the other stuff down before we can actually even get into the sources of our food. Okay, so if we don't understand calorie balance and how much we're actually eating, then nothing really matters on top of that. Okay, you can't just eat all the best sources and eat a ton of it. It won't work out for our body composition goals, right? Macronutrients, same thing. Okay, and this is with macronutrients and timing, this is where all kind of the diet methods come in about like keto or intermittent fasting or paleo or zone. Okay, all these diets that you've probably heard of, but hopefully now with the understanding of how many or how much macronutrients I should have and when I should have them, you are now empowered to go look at these diets and choose the one that's best for you. Okay, and your training goals. Remember, nutrient timing is a lot about training. Okay, and helping us kick ass in the gym, which will help us, chase those body composition goals if that's what we're after. All right. So once we get 1 through 3 down, we can come back and we can really fill it in with some good quality sources. All right. And this is where a lot of people want to start. They want to be like, just tell me what to eat, give it to me. Okay. But we know without the first principles, we can't go there. Okay. So now that we have that understanding, let's look into it. Protein. We want to look for sources of complete protein that contain essential amino acids. All right. Your proteins are broken down into essential and non-essential. Obviously, we want to look into essential amino acids. Those are things we have to get through our diet. The best sources will come from animal meat proteins. Okay, that doesn't mean that is the only source in the way to get those complete proteins. You can get it through like a vegetarian-based diet if that's what you choose. We're just going to go with the best source. All right. So we have here broken down into more, some, and less. Okay. And that's just a way that we can break it down so you guys can see, we want to have a little bit more of these, moderate amounts here, and then avoid on this side. Okay. So under our more category for our proteins, we got eggs, fish, wild game, and lean beef. Okay. And then our lentils and beans. Okay. So pretty good quality sources of complete proteins. They're lean meats, most of them, or they will have good quality fats in them. We'll get into more of that later. On our moderate side, we're going to eat some of these. These are our medium fatty meats, Canadian bacon, uncultured cottage cheese. And this is also where we can kind of throw in some protein powder as well. Right? It's a good source, but we don't want to let the protein powder be in front of our quality food sources. Okay? We want to eat less of fried meats, high-fat sausages, and processed deli meats. Right? Stay away from that stuff. It really serves no purpose in our diet unless we, absolutely have to get something in, which shouldn't be the case. Okay? So just make sure we're limiting that stuff. Coming down to our carbohydrates. Right? This is where we have a little bit in here we can play with, but there's 2 concepts we're going to look into. The micronutrient and fiber quantity, which we'll talk more about when we talk about our vitamins and minerals and our water content. And then our glycemic index. Okay, carbohydrates can basically, they can be broken down into some complex carbs versus simple carbs. Okay, or basically with the glycemic index, all that's saying is how quickly that carbohydrate source spikes your blood sugar. Right. So as a general rule, we want to keep our blood sugar levels pretty steady. We don't want a lot of spikes and crashes. Okay, we've probably heard that before, but we don't want that throughout the day with this energy spike and then crash, energy spike and crash. Okay, we want to stay pretty leveled out, and we want to have a pretty constant flow of energy source. So the bulk of our carbohydrates are going to come from lower glycemic carbohydrate. All right, things like our steel-cut oats, quinoa, okay, and then those beans again. All right. Those can come in pretty handy in terms of our lower glycemic. As far as limit, okay, in the middle, granola, some white rice, breads, bagels, and pastas. So yes, you can have some of that stuff. We just want to make sure it's in moderate amounts. On the left side, we have fruit juice, cereal bars, and things like chips, okay? So we gotta watch out for, we don't wanna be eating a lot of carbohydrates that are high in the glycemic index too often, okay? That's gonna give us a huge insulin spike, which is gonna make us store a lot of tissue, okay? It's gonna become into stored tissue. And plus we're just gonna have those spikes and crashes like we said. The only time, okay, where we will talk more about consuming some of those higher glycemic carbohydrates is around our training and maybe even during. Okay, so we can talk more about that in supplementation. But ideally, we're sticking with low glycemic carbohydrates. You eat some steel cut oats a couple hours before your workout, you're doing pretty good. All right, but if you need something else coming into that workout, maybe it's a higher intensity workout or something like that, you might get something a little bit higher on that glycemic index that will hit you a little bit quicker. Or if you've ever heard an example of, say we're doing a very tough workout, extended, longer workout or something like that, or maybe you're running a 5K, hopefully not a 5K, but you hopefully don't need it during a 5K, but maybe something a little bit longer. Some people actually eat like Skittles or something like that inside of an event that's pretty long, okay, to kind of help raise those blood sugar levels, right? Because they can get pretty depleted in that type of event. Those are the cases, though, that we're talking about higher glycemic carbohydrates. Mostly, we want to stick with that low glycemic, slower digesting carbohydrate. All right. Coming down into our fats, we want to stick with mostly monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. We want to limit our saturated fats, and we want to stay away from trans fats. Okay, so what does that look like? We want to eat more of things like extra virgin olive oil, seeds, okay, like flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, and chia seeds, fresh coconut, and even like egg yolks. Egg yolks are pretty good, okay? They can kind of get a bad rap too, but we do want to incorporate that into our diet, all right? We want to limit cheese, nut oils, and then some of our animal fats, okay? So especially like grass-fed animal fats are decent. That's going to be more of our saturated fat content, but we want to make sure that's limited, all right? Not the bulk of our fat that's making up our macronutrients, all right? Things we want to stay away from: store-bought baked goods, fast foods, terrible. Processed cheese, all right? Little yellow squares, not great. Hydrogenated oils, all right? So that one can be tricky too, because you can pick something up. A lot of peanut butters are like this, and they'll say 0 fat. But if you look at the ingredients, they'll have some of these hydrogenated oils in there. We got to be careful with that. Okay, so we don't want to be consuming a ton of that and get tricked by a nutrition label that says 0 fat. Okay, so make sure you're looking into that. So overall, all right, we've broken down what would be a quality amount of carbs, fats, and proteins in our diet. Make the bulk of that amount come from the more side, right? Don't let all of your fat and carbohydrate content come from things like chips and fast foods and all that stuff, okay? Don't let your carbohydrates come from sugars and fruit juices and Gatorades and all that type of stuff, okay? Stay on the lower glycemic index carbohydrates. And then with your protein, look for quality sources, all right? Whole sources. Stay, yes, we can use protein powders, and we'll talk more about that in supplements, but get good foods, okay? Quality vegetables. Make sure you're getting the beans in. If you're more of a vegetarian-based diet and you want to look for ways that you can create those complete protein sources, hit us up. We'll help you out more with that. Like I said, these are just more of the complete source amino acid profiles and the optimal way to get those, okay? So our next talk, we're going to talk about supplements and water, vitamins, and minerals. So we'll kind of include that all into one. So that'll be next. Once again, guys, if you have any other questions or if you want to dive deeper into some of this stuff, just reach out to us, all right? Hope you guys are doing good. Keep crushing it.